Hey, I'm Tony Sage. I'm a dev, and this is Sage Dev. So get ready. I'm going into this sprite that I built, the macOS app, and I have some custom art. And working in a 32-bit box is a little more difficult than I'd thought, but I think I have some things here. If you want to see how we built the initial app with Claude and what we did for that, that's in the last video. This is the Mac OS app is all built in Claude, and the last time getting it together with Xcode was a real bear. But hopefully we have gone past that. We'll find out. So today I created some art. I'm going to show you my art, and you can judge if you want, and we will try to implement these images in the code. Before I did anything else, I asked Claude what our current state is and what I should do to set this up. So one file, spritesheet.png, in my repo. So let me make sure I have the right repo here. So spritesheet.png, 64 by 80, a 4-column 5-row of 16 by 16 frames is what they're expecting, which is fine. I'm going to need to figure out how we're going to set that. The animations that I've got right now are built into a 32 by 32 because anything smaller than that is too hard to animate for me and have something that comes across as not a hot garbage fire. But the way that it wants us to do this is create a sprite sheet, which is 64 by 80, a 4-column by 5-row of 16 by 16 frames. And we want them to be in this order. That way when it does its animation, it captures specific frames and drops them into the code. So to start, I think this is fine. Long term, we're probably going to want a little bit more depth, maybe a separate sprite sheet for each, something that we can use the size of the PNG to determine the number of frames. That way, when we do this, it's more straightforward. As it is right now, let's show you the art. So I went through some iteration. This is the first. I'm not going to lie. I do not love how this turned out. I was going for kind of a Mega Man-y vibe. And this just looks god-awful in like a first attempt. So make sure to poke fun at these as you go, because I know I did. I was going for a kind of earthbound, maybe more of a, I don't know, I guess it could fit in Zelda somewhere, buried way deep down. But that didn't work out. So that was my first attempt. This is my second attempt, which is kind of gross. This was going more of the OG Mario style. So you can see my color scheme kind of follows. But at the end of the day, this was just gross. So I went out and looked at some art. I was poking around, trying to establish a process and how I was going to work this. And I found, okay, there's a lot of good art around Secret of Mana or Final Fantasy or things like that, but the more modern versions of those are more like Mega Man. So I kind of took a little bit of both, and this is what I've ended up with. If you think this is crap, and maybe it is, it's impossible for you to judge your own art if you've ever made anything that's art. But this is reminiscent of something that you would actually find in a Zelda game or in Secret of Mana. The head is much bigger, the legs are short. This is very on point for more of the look and feel I was going for. It's obviously supposed to be me, which is impossible to do in 32-bit. I did go out and find, used some AI tools and things to try to iterate over some ideas, but the ideas that it gave me were not great for what I was going for. So you can see here's a kind of concept that I went with. This would be great if you could do it in 32-bit. And at the end of the day, this was nothing more than like a starting point for me to branch off of. And like I can zoom into this a little bit more. I took this style and ran with it, but mostly just for proportions. So you can see his head's a little bit taller than his base, and his legs are spread a little bit, but you're working inside of a box when you're in 32 that you don't have to deal with when you're in a higher pixel. Because there's only so much you can do to squeeze detail into this little bitty space. That being said, that was my initial art, and then I did some animations. So here's where you can feel free to judge. So this was my initial, and I've got him doing a little bounce. So for scale, it'll be more like here, I think. And I don't intend on him doing this all the time. It would drive me insane. But that's one animation that I built that I should be able to export and then drop in as a PNG for the app to use. Here's some others. So here's my surprised state. So his eyes get real wide and his mouth opens. I don't know that I'm in love with that, but I decided, it's good enough. Here's my running animation. So he will run and then he'll pause. I don't know how many runs we're going to do, but that's my run right. And then my run left is just a mirror of that. And then my jump, which is not fully animated. So I have him jumping up, and theoretically, when I get into the next state of this, I'll probably have another animation that he can hit his head on a question block or whatever and put him in a state. But I think that's all of the things that we're trying to meet for this initial. And if we look at Claude, says idle, running right, running left, surprised, and jumping. Idle, I've got 3 frames, not 2. Running right is, honestly, I added more just for spacing, but really it's 1, 2, 3, 4 for running. And we're going to have to adjust a little bit to meet. It says 4. It might be more like 5 because I might want it to stop in the still position. I'm not sure. Anyway, we're going to take this and try to drop it in and see what we can do. Running left is double mirrored. When facing dot left on top of whatever row 2 contains. So if you want author genuine left facing art there, it gets flipped back to your sprite and your sprite moonwalks. Either put right facing frames in row 2 or delete that scale effect line and author both directions properly. Don't do neither. Okay. Never let the sprite sheet be wider than 4 columns. The loader infers your export scale at floor width 6. Okay, so let's go ahead and export this. So when we're working in, I worked in, whoa, what did I do? Anyway, I worked in Aseprite for this just because Aseprite's good at creating these. But if you want to try it, it's not that big a deal. It's only like 20 bucks. But I can have my animation and I can export as a sprite sheet. And you can see I've got doubles up here because of how we were creating that timing. So in reality, I probably don't need that. I probably just need one of each. Oops. So we can probably delete some frames. Let's see how, I want to make sure I don't lose anything. Yeah, it looks like it doubled on all of these runs. The nice thing about Aseprite is you can create layers. So if I have some art that uses similar colors and things, I can show and hide layers. And when you export, you can export by layer. So I can delete some frames. So for run, I can delete 4, and I'll make sure before I add a breaking change. So realistically, I'm talking about if we're going to do just 4 frames, probably stripping the rest. So let's make sure I don't lose anything else. Run right and left are identical. Surprise is just 1 frame right now. My little bob is 4 frames. So let's just get rid of these remaining frames so it doesn't repeat. And that puts us at, my idle does his down, up, bob. My surprise is just 1. I might need a second one just to meet the requirements. My run is 4. My jump is currently set for 2, but it's really just 1. So let's delete that cell. All right, and we want to make sure they're in the right order. It has me at idle, left, surprise, and jump is 1, surprise is 2. So let's just, to make things easier for this process, we'll just do a quick little edit and we'll make his mouth change size or something. So if I want in Aseprite, I can drag and drop a little bit. Oh, I'm in lock. So I can do that. If you haven't used a tool like this, it's all about the shortcut keys. Okay. And I think that's good enough. Did I keep... I'm probably going to have to swap this around because I think I did it backwards. But I don't want to lose my other work. Okay, let's take that and drop it into frame 2. Whoa. I just did that. Okay, so now it's in frame 2 and frame 1. We'll have that. I copied and pasted one too many times. All right, I think that's fine. So now my surprise is 2, and he's really gobsmacked. I could do more with his eyebrows and things. Maybe I'll do that later. But I've got 1 jump, which it says 1 jump, 2 surprise, 2 idle, left and right. So I can cut my idles to maybe just these 2. Even though then he just kind of looks like he's doing a little up and down thing, which is fine. Let's go ahead and I'm very careful about locking, and that just led me to this path where it's more difficult to edit. Okay. All right, so my idle is 2, surprise, run, jump. All right, now let's see if we can't sort these in the right order. Idle is 2 frames, so I should be able to, ooh. So we're going to try exporting. Let's do a sprite sheet. So a sprite sheet's going to look like that. And I can name it as whatever I want. I can do all frames. I can split layers. And I can sort them. So that way, if I want to have them all like this, so they're all on, I can export that entire sheet. Split layers. Okay, so I've got, is it the right order? That would be great. Idle, right, left, surprised, and jump. Idle is fine, surprised, so I need right and left to move up. All right, I just had to find the right place to drag and drop it. But here we go. So I have my idle, left, surprised, and jump. So from here I can split my layers, and I can set my output to a file, and my file name is gonna be spritesheet.png. And we'll see how big it exports. Spritesheet.png. And let's see if that landed in my documents. Yes. So there's my sprite sheet. Let's see what the so it currently sits at 128 by 160, and I need it at 64 by 80, so instead of a 16 by 16 is 32 by 32, which is my expectation. So before I upload this, if you isn't at 16 by 16, set sprite sheet frame size and keep sprite size an integer multiple of the same aspect ratio. The image is resizable and fixed sprite size frame. So 64 by 64 frame gets squished in a 16 by 24 art. So sprite sheet frame size, let's find that. So instead of 16 by 16, I'm going to make it 32 by 32. There's my sprite sheet in Xcode. Now that we've got it in source, which is our repo source, now drag sprite sheet from Finder into Xcode Project Navigator, dropping it into the desktop sprite group, the one containing Actions app model rendering. Okay. This is the issue that we were running into over and over. So let's just go into Finder, and in my projects, I need to find the button to turn that off. So I have resources with my sprite sheet. I want to copy that into desktop sprite, and reference files in place because it tried to lie to me again. There's my sprite sheet, and build. Yeah, well, I think I already changed something in the code that's not in here, that's in source. But we'll see. Oh man, look at there. Oh, he's doing the moonwalk just like it said it would. He's also a little bit small. I kind of want him to be twice that size. I do like that he bobs up and down. Okay, so let's tweak that then. The moonwalk, just like Claude said. Claude is... I like that he's opening and shutting his mouth. Let's make him a little bit bigger and see what else we can do. So the good news is when I readjusted it, it did work. So my animation's coming in fine. So that's good. Let's fix where it said he was going to do the moonwalk. So blah, 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 blah. Frame count. Where are you? Okay, running left is double mirrored. It applies scale effect x -1 when facing is left. So if I want a genuine left facing art, it gets flipped back and your sprite moonwalks. That's what we were seeing. Either put it right facing frames in row 2, or delete that scale effect line and author both directions properly. Yeah, okay. So let's, oops. Apparently I can't copy and paste. So facing is right. So then I want so let's just try that. Now the question is, if I update this and then immediately build, is it going to capture in Xcode? So we'll stop him and rebuild. You're just going to stand there. Okay, he ran to the right. He ran to the left. Okay, so that solved that. And he's doing his little up and down bob, which is fine. He jumps. He looks surprised. And let's change the size. So let's just let Claude do that. Currently, my Character is a little too small. I want to make him twice as big. Can you help with that? I wonder why, because the original is so much bigger than this. And we gave this, it's a 32-bit. The original was 8-bit, and it's like twice the height. So we'll let AI see what it wants to do. But for me, for somebody that doesn't know what he's doing, I mean, that's not bad. Claude can use the iOS simulator. Oh, weird. Yeah, we're not going to do that because I'm not working in iOS. I'm using macOS. So let's see what it changed. So this is me adding the actual file to the Xcode. This is me tweaking. Okay. So it's just increasing my coverage size, and there's my scale effect I removed, and there's mine. So it was a relatively small. There he is. So there's my custom art. I don't know, maybe I want him to run a little bit faster. I guess it's fine. I don't love his arms kind of do a weird thing where he's swinging them back and forth, but I think it's fine. I might scale it back down just a little bit, just a hair, because right now he's... I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. So there's my custom art. I've got my custom animations. I'm going to expand on this and add some new animations and some additional look and feel things. But I think for an amateur, it's doable. I want to make it so that he hits some kind of block. I might tweak his jump so that he's moving off to the right when he jumps. There's lots of more work to do here. But there's the basic concept. I think it looks all right. That's enough for this video. Judge my bad art all you want, because God knows I do. And let me know in the comments if there's anything you think I should add to this or things I should do to extend this. If you have some other characters, if someone else is into working in this setup with Aseprite or anything and has another example of a sprite sheet, we could put in multiples, or we could make it so you could select. So part of this build is this little thing up here, and I'm thinking we could have several potentially and pick between them, and we could even impact like how it, what its look and feel is when we select something else. Oh, he also makes a noise. If I didn't say that, when you click him, he makes a noise. So anyway, that's it for this video. It should be a little bit shorter. I'm gonna have to trim some of this noise, but it seemed to be working pretty all right. Okay, take care, have a good night, and we'll see you later.